So when showing our typography, I thought this would translate well to the portfolio. I just put typographic system there and trying to use that vertical type, which is something that we do in the brand as well with our banner. And I also wanted to show off some different color combinations. We've already done a lot of dark. We've done this cream and shaking it up since we have red up here, also shaking up the background. So we have some changing backgrounds. We're demonstrating the brand's color versatility when selecting background images or background colors. So what I wanted to talk about on the next slide was I want to talk about the brand voice or brand language. And I thought about taking what we already had in our brand presentation or our client presentation, put that in there, but I wanted to rearrange it to be more simplified for the portfolio presentation. And last time I put the bags along with it, but I think for this I kind of want to have a more gentle introduction to the brand voice and have it be really clean and show some examples. You can even have 5 more examples on here because you have kind of that room and that space to breathe where before there was a lot going on. And I just wanted to clean this up and have its own slide dedicated to brand voice. And so that means with the next one, we can really focus on the delivery bags and just have a slide dedicated to that. So basically taking what we had for the client presentation and breaking it into 2 different slides. So for the next one, we want to have our delivery bag and we have a chance to just show that. So delivery made fun. And we have the mock-up that we created in the class. I'm just going to take this entire mock-up. I'm going to copy it and paste it in this Artboard 7. And let me size it accordingly. I can make it a lot bigger now that I don't have a whole lot of type on there, and that's another good thing to do. Let's make it really big and focus in on, we don't really need to focus on the arm so much, so we can cut that off. So now we can arrange this a little differently. So delivery made fun. We can bring in this typography from our client presentation. Let me just make it the right color. And if there's a way to reduce the amount of text, that's great, because with portfolio presentations, you want to avoid being too wordy. So if we read through this, we want to reduce this is not a lot of text, but if I had much longer, I'd find a way to maybe make it less wordy if I could. So you notice how that looks a lot different than this. So this was great when you had a lot of words integrated in it. We really need to explain it in more detail. And this one gives us a chance to show off the bag detail. And I wanted to have a slide in here for brand assets. We didn't go into too much detail on brand assets in this particular course, like creating patterns. We did do that little quick smile icon, but I wanted to show you if you did have one for your brand, this is a good way to kind of present it. It's very clean. I have a simple paragraph that describes kind of the 2 inspirations for this particular pattern or shape. One is a smile, so you got the smile underneath, and one is the Mackie roll, and we derived all of this from the inspiration of just the simple circle and kind of expanding on that. We did that in the earlier lesson. And I took the pattern from Adobe Illustrator and drug it in here, and what I decided to do is kind of change the angle just to add something really different because we have a lot of straight lines. So just changing the angle here to kind of differentiate it from everything else that we have so far. Just a little angle, a little interesting things happening there, and just kind of labeling everything. So if you have something with your logo that you need to break it down, just like we studied before, this is just kind of the slide I would do it with. So digital applications, definitely want to have one dedicated to that. So here's all of our digital applications. I can just take this right from the client presentation and bring it over. This one was pretty simple. I could probably leave it as is. This could be a good a place to put an Instagram post or social media post. I'm just bringing these in individually so I can have more control over them. So I'm doing a little bit of a different arrangement. I even added the 4th primary color just to have more variety. And I feel like with the portfolio presentation, I have more freedom to show more variety because now I'm not worried about the client being overwhelmed. I can do whatever I want. I can show a whole lot more variety, things that I wish I could have combined. So I'm going to go back into Illustrator, and I have these icons, and I think I'm going to take these icons and double the amount of color combinations just to show how versatile the color palette is to the potential client. Before I just did a select amount to not overwhelm, but now I want to really show the flexibility of the palette. So I'm going to take all these, bring these in. I could even keep going more, but I think that pretty much gets the job done. So I'm going to bring these in a different arrangement. I feel like this will fill out the space a bit better than the other stacked arrangement I had. So that really shows off our versatility. I can go back and make sure I have the right spacing between all those icons, because I don't think they have the right spacing. So I can select all, align to the top. Makes a big difference. These little, make sure everything you have is aligned how you want to have it aligned. So you may think you have it right, but when you do the alignment tool, you realize, oh, they weren't perfectly set up. We're able to get all this done. Look how quickly we were able to kind of put all this together, because we have all this ready. We're just rearranging it in a different way. That's all we're doing. So with photos, what we had in the client presentation was this kind of gallery of photos that did a good job at showing a wide variety of photos. But what I like to do for a portfolio presentation is dress it up a little bit and have the photos be different sizes. As we studied with focal points and graphic design, if you have everything the same size, there's no sense of focal point or hierarchy, which is not necessarily a good thing. It's a good thing here because we were showing the client a lot of different photos that were in the gallery. But in this case, it's more of a presentation, so we can make them different sizes. So what I'm going to do, I'm in Adobe Photoshop. I am just going to get a couple of containers here. This is the frame tool, and I'm just going to do a couple of framed different size boxes. So I'm going to just do different sizes, some big, some small. I think having a wider variety of different sizes will help maintain a sense of hierarchy in the space. I have several of these photos I can bring in, so I'm going to drag them in based on their orientation. And Photoshop's going to do a good job at automatically cropping these for me, but I can do that manually later. So I'm doing a nice mixture of food and people. And you also want to have a nice mixture of tight, close shots, zoomed in, and then further out shots. So you want a lot of contrast between the type of photos you use. So this is a nice zoomed in shot. This is a people shot. We can even zoom in more on this one. So I'm just going to double click so I can crop more onto what he's doing. Same with this. These are very similar, so let's really zoom in on him. Same thing with this. It's hard for me to make out the details, so let's really do a tighter shot here. Align those to the top. Make sure everything has equal spacing. So another thing I want to do is integrate some of our alternative logos throughout all this as well. So that's why I brought in this circular version and put it right there in the intersection here where there wasn't a whole lot going on with the photography. So just kind of finding a place to put that as well to tie it in together. So lastly, we want to be able to exit the presentation with a bang. So I thought we would come up with a little clever tagline, see you at the sushi bar. I'm gonna make this all lowercase to keep with our brand consistency. So see you at the sushi bar. It's got a little bit of an emblem on there. I thought it would be neat to integrate one of our chosen photos. Here's a photo I thought would be framed really nicely with the type setup we have. So I'm going to bring this down, and we're going to have to crop this. So we never want to put something over someone's face and nose. It just looks awkward. So we're just going to have to arrange this so we have his face nicely cropped but not covered. And I think I want to, I'm not seeing the brand colors really coming through there. So why don't I put the photo on top. I have this red layer underneath. I'm going to take the photo into a blending mode, maybe a soft light, and maybe reduce the opacity just a little bit, just to kind of have a little subtle hint, a little smile there. Kind of helps with this. I don't necessarily have to have such a strong drop shadow, so let me reduce that. Don't like using strong drop shadows, just enough to push it out from the photo. And so you're putting this nice soft end to your presentation, just like a little hint of your brand throughout. There's a lot more artboards and photos that we can use, but I think this is a nice length. We have 11 different pages we can put in our Behance presentation. We can add some, we can subtract some. That's so easy to add and subtract. So what we're going to do is, you'll see in Behance, a lot of people do these big long images. They basically have one big document that's super long, like 8,000 pixels, and they'll save it and they put it on there, but they're not leaving themselves open to easily changing it. So I like to export them as individual photos. I think it loads better when they look at it, because the images load one by one instead of this big gigantic image. And what's great about this is I can easily put this on my portfolio website too. So it's just more versatile sizing. So that's why I have it separated into separate pages or artboards, as opposed to that big long image that sometimes you see people put on Behance. Plus, this gives us a chance to put live text in between the different images if we wanted to. So let's export these. And upon further research and testing out different sizes and what looks the best on Behance, I decided to change the size and make it a little bit bigger. It was, before it was only 1,600 pixels in width. Now I've made it 2,000, and it was 1,000, and now I'm making 1,300 in height. And it was really easy to change. I just highlighted the artboard, changed it, and then resized it. Everything was a smart object or vector, so it scaled nicely. Nothing pixelated when I had to make it bigger. So I'm going to export this. I'm going to export this as a JPEG. And if you want to put on copyright and contact info, you can. That would embed kind of some copyright protection for your photos, because when you post them on a third-party website, anybody can take them and say it's yours. So it's nice to have some of that embedded in your photos. So I'm going to go ahead and click on export.